खिज्र निकले न सिकंदर निकले, भागती सड़कों पे खंजर निकले। यूं मसीहाओं के दर थे हर सू, दी जो दस्तक तो सितमगर निकले। चांद सूरज को बसाया घर में, वक्त पड़ने पे वो पत्थर निकले। लाश इंसान की सड़कों पे सड़ी, कौवे इंसान से बदतर निकले।
This is my favorite picture. He had the most beautiful smile. You know, whenever he laughed, he smiled, his whole face would lit up. My father was always like, he was a poet. His passion was to write poetry. And he was in politics. He was also the leader of the coolies in Ahmedabad. He was the trade union member of the coolies, that called the porters, when you go to the railway stations. He wanted to work for the people, mostly the poor people, the people who didn't have a voice for themselves.
My name is Imran. I'm from Batley, West Yorkshire, UK. I do feel that I am Gujarati because my parents are Gujarati. The people around me are Gujarati. I speak the language, maybe not well, but I can understand it and speak it. My two uncles, my next door neighbour Mohammed, we planned a visit to go to India to spend time with our family there. So it was February 2002. My first time, as well as my uncle Sakil's first time as well. We'd never been, and we had so much expectations. We've heard so much stories about India and how great it was, and how how our forefathers had stayed there.
Gujarat, perched on the western coast of India, enveloped between the Arabian Sea and the Abu Mountains. She housed one of the world's oldest ports and was a melting pot of countless travellers, refugees, and traders. She was the birthplace of Gandhi, but today his vision is but a distant dream. We arrived in Ahmedabad, Gujarat's largest city. We soon noticed its divisions and how religious identities carved borders across the city. As two sisters and filmmakers, born in London to a Gujarati Jain family, we wanted to find out what had happened to a place that was once so inclusive. We didn't know then that this journey would lead us across oceans to India, the UK, and the US.
My name is Nishrin Jafri Hussain. I was born in 1965 in a small town called Khandwa in Madhya Pradesh. My home was in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. So, when I was 2 months old, I came to Gujarat, Ahmedabad, in Gulbarg Society, near Gulbarg Society. That's where my parents lived. Currently, I'm in USA. I'm married to Dr. Najeed Hussain. I have 2 boys.
Chopping the onions is the hardest job. Nothing makes you cry more than that.
There is a crow here, those crows, they say fly here from India.
What did you find most difficult about leaving Gujarat?
Parents, my hometown, my friends. I was very close to my dad. It was very difficult. He was a person who loved people, and he understood their pain, and that's how we grew up, knowing what that is. And he was in Ahmedabad because he realized that there is a divide. RSS and VHP had a very strong hold in Gujarat, Ahmedabad, especially in Ahmedabad. So he wanted to be there to show that we can make the bridge. We can live together. We are all people. We are living in a democracy.
It was a different experience. Jet lagged, tried to get some sleep in the car, but I just couldn't because it was always horning. And we landed at night, and as we drove, we saw the morning come up, and we saw India wake up. We had our Eid celebrations, and then we decided to go on a road trip, see the Taj Mahal, and then on return, we came back, coming through Gujarat. We saw that there was roadblocks. There was police on the road. We saw burnt out buildings. We saw smoke in the horizon. Well, in the horizon, and buildings on fire. And there was a police vehicle stood there, and we'd asked the officers if it was safe to go ahead, which they agreed to. They said, yeah, it's safe to go ahead. Came to a point where the car had stalled, and then through that we'd seen that there was a farmhouse just nearby, but as the car had stopped, first person that they got hold of was a driver, and obviously they did what they did to him, and then we'd run for our lives basically, and we went to the farmhouse that was nearby. And by this time the mob had come, surrounded us. Basically, we were pleading for our lives basically once we were there at the farmhouse. They were asking us, we were Muslims, obviously we were British citizens. They had sticks with knives at the end of it, and all different kinds of weapons, we would say. One guy, I still remember, he was saying, he said it in the Gujarati language that time to take his trousers off and see if he's circumcised, to see if he's Muslim. Let's deal with these people. That's how sick these people were.
On the 27th of February 2002, 58 Hindus were killed when a train carriage caught fire in Godhra in eastern Gujarat. The following day, Hindu nationalist groups carried out mass violence against the Muslim minority, which resulted in the death of over 800 Muslims.
From the attacks that happened to us, I got hit on the head, stabbed in the leg, and then next minute I know I was in the hospital. I'd woken up and in a how could I put it? I was still in a daze. I was semi-conscious. I'd got out of the bed, walked around looking for my uncles, looking for Muhammad to see where they are, and I basically had no response. I was directed back to go to bed, and I asked the police officer that did you go back to get my uncles? And he goes, oh, we went back, there was no one there. And that's it really. And then I had to identify the body of the driver in the morning at the morgue, and he was in such a state, his body was burnt alive basically, and I couldn't even recognise him.
I think it was Thursday morning, 28th, yeah, 29th, he called home and he says, go turn on the computer and check the newspaper, Times of India, because that's what, like, we used to always go on Times of India. And I said, like, I'm running late to work. I have to get Zubin to school. And why do you want me to go into the newspaper to check the computer right now? And he was actually, I couldn't understand him because he wasn't talking very clearly. And then the second time when he said, I'm telling you to go and check the newspaper. And when I turned on the computer, I said to my husband, I said, you know what, he's asking me to look at the computer. Can you take care of Zubin? And the title was Jaffri and his wife burnt alive. I didn't know how to react. I didn't believe it. I thought it was a prank. I wanted to believe it was a prank. I had this feeling that my dad has survived. My dad has been, he wouldn't, somehow I had this feeling that he loved me so much that he wouldn't just give himself, he would have saved himself for me, he knew that how much painful it would be for me to find out. Because we found my mother, I kept thinking for the longest time, that you wouldn't believe me. I've never told this to anybody, but there are times when I think that maybe RSS or BJP will come out and they'll say that we are holding him hostage. They'll ask for money and release him. There are times when I'm in Ahmedabad, I look at the streets and I see maybe he has lost his memory, but he's somewhere. When you don't find a body, when you don't touch, when you don't have those last minutes, you have all these crazy thoughts,
When I went there on March 1st, 2002, just after this devastation and killing, and when I saw the bodies burnt and mutilated, lying everywhere, many places I went, I saw them lying in the open fields, and I saw the little bodies of children in the water tanks who must have jumped into the tank following, put on fire. I was absolutely horrified. And I started thinking, this community, could it do this thing? I could not believe it. The more I see the support that is kind of given to these extremist elements over a long period of time, it actually puzzles me a lot. And I think we have changed, whatever may be the reason. This is a change you really don't want to see. And not at least in Gujarati folks, because Gujarati folks have been, in my opinion, the best of the lot I had seen over a period of time.
The anti-Muslim violence erupted a day after 58 Hindus were killed when a train carriage caught fire in Godhra following a dispute between local Muslim vendors and Hindu passengers. Despite initial reports stating that this tragedy was not pre-planned, Chief Minister Narendra Modi announced the fire as a premeditated terrorist attack.
The question of Godhra has always remained a big mystery. And we believe that so far as the government is concerned and the prosecution is concerned, they never wanted the actual truth to come out. Their primary aim was to project it as a jihadi terrorist act, and they wanted to put the entire Muslim community as the culprits.
In the wake of what happened in 2002, several of us put together what was called the Concerned Citizens Tribunal. This Concerned Citizens Tribunal was headed by one of the most eminent luminaries of legal luminaries of the country, that is Justice Krishna Iyer. And all the people who were here in this Citizens Tribunal were Hindus. This tribunal, in 3 volumes, put down an extensive study of what took place prior to 2002 Gujarat carnage, during the days and the aftermath. And we have said 3 very things, the Citizen Tribunal has said 3 very clear things. One is, this was a well-planned genocide. Secondly, the burning of the train was not something that was pre-planned and premeditated. It was an accident. An accident that took place. It was unfortunate in the wake of certain rumors and so on, but the fire came from inside the train. And the third, we have said, and we have established enough of it, that very powerful people, including the Chief Minister of Gujarat, including several MLAs from the ruling party, many of the police were directly or indirectly involved in this carnage. It was not the fight between 2 communities as much as the majority community was encouraged, was motivated, was inspired, by the ruling dispensation at that time to go and attack, rape, kill, whatever, the minority community.
We travelled to Vadodara, where Narendra Modi was holding a rally. He had been Chief Minister of Gujarat since 2001 and represents the Hindu Nationalist Party, the BJP. Several accusations have been made against Modi for his complicity in the 2002 violence. He was also preparing for national-level elections, where he would be running to be India's next Prime Minister.
मेरे गुजरात पर इतना आशीर्वाद बरसाओ कि मेरे 6 करोड़ गुजराती सुखी और समृद्ध हो।
Gujarat has grown. It's the fastest growing state and progressing very well. You can see the wealth in people. You can see the progress in infrastructure. The best roads in India today are in Gujarat. And I think what the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, is doing is identified what's the most important thing that you need to do is economic prosperity. As he calls it, vikas, help progress, help with development, do whatever it takes to invite people and grow economically. If you grow economically, the wealth will trickle down to all levels of the society, and I think that's a good, correct policy to follow.
Cast away in Ahmedabad's outskirts live some of the thousands of Muslims who were displaced by the 2002 violence. We met Khatunben, who now lives next to one of Ahmedabad's rubbish dumps.
બીજી બધી જેટલી કોલોની છે ને ગુજરાતની બધી કોલોનીમાં આ જ છે કે કઈ સરકારી કામ ત્યાં છે જ નહીં. પાણી, લાઇટ, ગટર કશું નથી. આ બધું પ્રાઇવેટ છે. ના ભાજપ ધ્યાન આપે છે ને કોંગ્રેસ ધ્યાન આપે છે. કોઈને વોટ લેવા હોય તો હાથ જોડીને આવે છે, પછી 5 વર્ષ સુધી ભૂલી જાય છે કે અમે કોને શું વાયદો આપ્યો છે. અમને તો કોઈના ઉપર ભરોસો નથી. કોઈ કશું કરતું નથી. બધા પોતપોતાના સ્વાદ માટે એ લોકો બધું કરે છે. બધું પતી જાય છે તો ભાઈ તમે કોણ ને અમે કોણ. એની છોકરો જનતાને જઈને પૂછો તો ખરો કે શું કરે છે એની જનતા, ક્યાં કરે છે ને શું કરે છે. એમ કે છે તો બહાર જઈને લોકો કહે છે ને તો બહાર જઈને એમ કહે છે કે ગુજરાતની જનતા છોકરો શાંતિથી રહે છે ને મુસલમાન તો એ લોકોની જાતે એ લોકોને વિસ્થાપિત થયા છે ને એ લોકો રહે છે કે એમને કોઈ વાતની કોઈ તકલીફ નથી. પણ તમે જાણી શકો છો, તમે અત્યારે અહીંયા કેટલી અડધો કલાક થવા આવે, તમે જાણી શકો છો કે અહીંયા કેટલી તકલીફ છે અને કેટલી સગવડ છે અને કેટલી વાઇબ્રેટ ગુજરાત છે. એ બધું નદીની પાર વાઇબ્રેટ ગુજરાત, આ બાજુ કશું નથી.
And do you have any Gujarati role models?
Only one, and that is Narendra Modi. I think he's shown what a proud Gujarati can achieve. And we have a number of Gujarati businessmen who have all succeeded despite the harsh economic climate in India. They succeeded. So, I mean, that's an enormous accolade.
Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, तरह-तरह का cola. Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, तरह-तरह का cola. पर पीने का पानी गायब जब भी नल को खोला. पर पीने का पानी गायब जब भी नल को खोला. ना बूंद भी पानी मिले, ना बूंद भी पानी मिले, ना बूंद भी पानी मिले, ना बूंद भी पानी. जगीरा सारा रा 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 रा. जगीरा सारा रा रा, जगीरा सारा रा रा. मनमोहन ने भारत बेचा, मोदी ने गुजरात. मनमोहन ने भारत बेचा, मोदी ने गुजरात. शिवसेना ने दौड़ा दी है एनरॉन की कार. शिवसेना ने दौड़ा दी है एनरॉन की कार. मोदी ने भी दौड़ा दी है टाटा नैनो कार. मोदी ने भी दौड़ा दी है टाटा नैनो कार. दलाली धंधा है इनका, दलाली धंधा है इनका, दलाली धंधा है इनका, दलाली धंधा है इनका. जगीरा सारा रा 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 रा. जगीरा सारा रा रा.
जब 2001 का सेंसस आया और 2004 में मुझे पहली बार पता चला कि हमारे गुजरात में बेटों की तुलना में बेटी की संख्या कम है. मेरे पास
This is Bilkis Bano and her baby Hajra. She was raped by 7 men while they killed her daughter in front of her, and she was pregnant. She's the one who testified and filed an FIR. I mean, many other girls who were raped, they didn't come out in the open to file a complaint. She did. She was very brave. I met her in that same tour.
And she was raped while she was pregnant.
She was pregnant, and they killed her daughter and her parents in front of her. They burned her parents alive. And if I'm correct, they took her 4-year-old daughter and they stoned her. They stoned her to death. When you see her, you feel like, you don't know what to tell her. How do you console her? Somebody who has gone through so much pain. Life in India, in Gujarat, Muslim life in Gujarat does not have any value. That family, this is the picture I had taken when I went to India in 2001. This is one of the neighbors in the corner of our complex. This uncle and this person here, they are the only 2 survivors. Everyone else was killed, and all these children were in my house. And this lady here you see in the back in the green, she was pregnant.
I got an email from the Wharton India Forum, India Economic Forum, which is a student organization, and they hold an annual event every year, annual forum, and this time their website and their letter to us said that Narendra Modi was going to be the keynote speaker at that event. And we wrote a letter, Suvir, myself and Turjo Ghosh. We drafted a letter very quickly protesting against this and asking them to rescind the invitation.
We thought Narendra Modi was an unacceptable invitee as a keynote speaker for something that threatened to legitimize him, was in fact designed to legitimize his ascent to national power in India.
Wharton University has invited Narendra Modi to come here. And he was invited by students in Wharton University. But when some people came to know who are anti-Modi, the group I already told you, whether they are communist, they are leftist, they are far left, and they are Islamist people. They combined together. There are these people, they have come from India. Indian professor, 3 Indian professors, they drafted one memo and asked a student to sign that memo and gave it to the dean. So I don't know who authorized them, but they disinvited Modi. And when this news spread all over USA, people were very angry. Hindus were very frustrated. And not only Hindu, but I think almost all the Indians were very angry. And they wanted to do something about that. So then we also decided that we have to do something. And we organized a big protest from here. We took all the buses from New York. We took some buses from Chicago.
We want free speech, free speech, free speech, free speech, free speech.
We did not take away Modi's right to free speech. He has every right, and if the state ever comes down against him, against his right to say even the heinous things he says, we will be the first ones to protect that right for him. But this was more them trying to curtail our free speech to resist him. He is the establishment. He's a chief minister. He's about to become prime minister if they have their way. We have every right to resist that and to call attention to institutions like ours. And the institution has a right to say we made a mistake, which they did, you know. So, and then the true colors come out when they resort to calls for our firing. Of course, people who are interested in free speech wouldn't call for us to be fired. So that, I think, is where, you know, they're showing exactly how they reconceptualize free speech. There's nothing free about their speech. It comes with lots of strings attached.
Free speech, Modi, Modi, God bless America.
Some of us were women. The threats were very sexualized. Not worth repeating here, except I will say that they fit in exactly with what Hindutva people, the kind of threats they routinely issue out. Again, not surprising. It's not any different to the kind of threats they issue to Muslim women particularly.
The lines of Hindutva are drawn on the bodies of women, I think. And that gets really explicitly, visible in many of the threats that many of these folks make to us, via email. Yeah, so a lot of it is against, your mother and the standard Indian galis, so to speak. Some of it is towards me. Some of it is towards my hair. They love my hair because they seem to hate it, which tells me that, they're totally focused on it.
Hinduism and Hindutva have nothing to do with each other. Hinduism was a philosophy, not a religion. It was a philosophy of acceptance and tolerance. Hindutva is an extremely militant, intolerant, rigid, we are the best in the world kind of Aryan distilling of a superior race, where everybody else lives by my goodwill.
Hindutva, or Hindu nationalism, has been on the rise in Gujarat since the 1960s. Its main organization, the RSS, was founded in 1925 and was partly inspired by European fascism. The RSS was temporarily banned after one of its members assassinated Mahatma Gandhi. We met Ramesh, a supporter of the RSS, and asked him why people join Hindu nationalist organizations.
राष्ट्रवाद के लिए और हिंदू धर्म की रक्षा के लिए और सेवा के लिए.
રાષ્ટ્રવાદ એટલે શું?
राष्ट्रवाद मतलब पाश्चात्य संस्कृति बोलते हैं ना, उसका असर और स्वदेशी विदेशी को हटाओ स्वदेशी के लिए, वो सब वो समस्या के लिए. और मतलब यानी आतंकवाद बाहर का है, उसके लिए राष्ट्रवाद जगाते कोई देश के अंदर. वो
કયા પ્રકારના આતંકવાદની તમે વાત કરી રહ્યા છો?
मुस्लिम आतंकवाद मतलब इस्लामी आतंकवाद और मतलब इसका आतंकवाद मुस्लिम इस्लामी आतंकवाद, ये दूसरे आतंकवाद है वो उसके. बस छोड़ो नहीं यार, बिल्कुल कुछ नहीं यार, ये तो मतलब क्या है, फिर फिल्म उतार के बताइए. इंटरव्यू तो मेरे को मुख जबानी खाली विचार रखने के तुम्हारे. बाकी हकीकत बात है, सनातन सत्य है कि हिंदुस्तान में वर्ल्ड के अंदर हिंदुस्तान में वर्ल्ड के अंदर हर राइट्स होते रहते हैं. बाकी मेरे को ये समझ में नहीं आता कोई भी व्यक्तिवाद मानवता राष्ट्रवाद की मानवता के लिए कि साला क्यों इसको ये चीज़ को पकड़ के रखते हैं 2002 और ताणु के अंदर नहीं, 69 के अंदर नहीं हुआ, कि यहाँ पे बॉम्बे के अंदर नहीं हुआ, होते रहते राइट्स को. आदमी ये क्या है कि ये साला ये समझ में नहीं आया.
ઇતિહાસ આખો બદલાઈ ગયો ને એના કારણે.
क्यों? आपका सूचना?
हाँ,
आपका सूचना?
राजू.
पूरा नाम?
हाँ,
पूरा नाम?
राजू मकवाणा.
આ તો કરાયેલું જ છે. આ ગટર તો 3 મહિનાથી બધું ચાલતું હતું. લોકો ઘરે આવતા હતા, તમારા ઘરમાં કેટલા માણસો છે, કેટલી લેડીઝો છે, કેટલા છોકરાઓ છે, ગેસ છે, ટીવી છે, ફ્રીજ છે, શું છે તમારા ઘરમાં. અમને એવું કે બધા સર્વે કરવા આવ્યા છે, તો અમે બધી સારી રીતે બેસાડીને ચા પાણી કરાવીને એ લોકોને અમે સર્વે કરાવ્યું. 3 મહિના પછી તો આ સર્વેનું ઇતિહાસ બહાર આવી ગયું. 3 મહિના સુધી એ લોકોએ સર્વે કર્યું, એનું ઇતિહાસ બહાર 2002માં બધું કાઢી લીધું એને. એ દિવસ અમે શાક જ સંભાળતી હતી. સવારનું ટાઈમ હતું 9 વાગ્યાનું. અમે શાક સંભાળતા હતા અને એટલી વારમાં ત્યાંથી બધા અવાજ આવવા લાગ્યું કે ટોળું આવ્યું. બાજુવાળા બેન આવ્યા કે ખાતુનબેન ત્યાં ટોળું આવ્યું છે કે રોડ ઉપર. મેં કીધું એવું બને જ નહીં ને, ટોળું અહીંયા કોઈ દિવસ આવે જ નહીં. તો કે ના આવ્યું છે. મેં કીધું તમે મજાક કરો છો, બીવું છું ને એટલે તમે મજાક કરો છો. તો કે ના કે સાચી વાત છે. તો એમને શાકની થાળી ચક્કુ એમને મૂકીને છોકરાની ગોદમાં, ત્યારે મારો બાબો નાનો હતો, 1.5 વર્ષનો હતો, એને ગોદમાં લઈને અમે બહાર નીકળી ગયા ને જોયું તો બધા ટોળું જ હતું. ચડ્ડા પહેરેલા હતા, માથા ઉપર પટ્ટી હતી કેસરી, તલવારો, ત્રિશુલો, જય શ્રી રામ પુકારતા એ લોકો અમારા ગલીમાં ઘૂસી ગયા.
I think at 10:30 when the mob had arrived, they were pelting stones and the wall in the back, they were trying to break it, but they had no way to get in the complex. I believe they say that Inspector P.C. Pandey had visited, and it seems that he had asked my dad to come outside the complex, and he had told my dad that why don't you and your wife get into the van and I'll take you out from here. And I know that my dad would never have gone with him. That's what they are saying, but he came inside and in the complex, and he said everything is going to be all right, and he left, and then he never came back. And other witnesses who don't want to be named, they say that the police van kept circling outside but they never came inside to help. They all knew what was going on. I mean, the police was basically told we have no orders. On the Human Rights Watch documents, they have said it. We have no orders to save you. So they were basically on their own.
धर्मों में भी, जाति में भी, रिश्तों में भी, त्योहारों में भी, रिश्तों में भी, त्योहारों में भी, दफ्तर में भी, सड़कों पे भी, शहरों में भी, गाँवों में भी, शहरों में भी, गाँवों में भी, चौराहे पे हिंसा है चारों पहर, चौराहे पे हिंसा है चारों पहर, सरहदों पे भी देखो तो छाया जहर। इन दिनों सोचूं मैं, इन दिनों क्या हुआ, इन दिनों देखूं मैं, इन दिनों।
Well, coming back home, knowing that my next door neighbour was not here, my uncles are not returned with me. It was very hard. Knowing that I see my next door neighbours, I see them every day. Not a day goes by that I don't think, a thought crosses my mind of what happened in India. I see my uncle's children. It's very hard knowing that their father's not gonna come back. So he used to work. He had various jobs, but as he went to India, he worked as a optician. He used to make glasses. As an optical engineer, I think that's the term. That's what he used to do. Saeed used to work as a store manager, big stores, and he was an enthusiast with technology at the time. He had an interest in video cameras, and if he would have been around today, he would have loved the technology. He would have loved the cameras and all sorts. But he's got one son and two daughters, and they were very, they had the community at their heart. And so did Muhammad.
Was Muhammad, he was one of your friends?
Yeah, his next door neighbour. He worked at the he worked at a local biscuit factory here, and he was a lovely gentleman. Always smiling.
Back in London, we met Suresh Grover, a renowned human rights campaigner who is leading Imran's fight for justice. There are currently 9 cases filed against Narendra Modi and his involvement in the riots. Imran and his family have launched a civil case to try Modi and his administration for crimes against humanity.
What we've argued in the crimes against humanity is that Narendra Modi, the Chief Minister, had a number of meetings prior to the orgy of violence that took place, where he specifically asked police officers and other ministers not to act to safeguard Muslims who he knew were being targeted. There are minutes of meetings, recordings of meetings, as well as affidavits by one or two individuals who were at that meeting. We had to show that the Chief Minister was aware of not just one or two incidents, but a statewide program against Muslims. The wheels of justice in India are atrocious. I was in India in March this year and in August this year trying to speed the things up with the lawyers in India. And just getting forensic evidence takes about 2 years, where it should be 6 weeks at the most. And they don't set a period of a civil case where evidence can be heard in 10 days. It's half a day, 1 day, then 3 months later, and then 4 months later, etc. It's shambles, okay? But I think the principle was that we believe that the individual responsible for killing Syed and Syed should be punished, but they were influenced and motivated by the politics of Narendra Modi and the Hindutva and BJP, and both of them have to be held accountable. That's why the civil action is taking place. What's relevant is that for the first 5 years, both the state legal machinery in Gujarat and the national legal machinery was under the control of the BJP. Not a single case was held against them. But since Congress have come into power, and the alliance has come into power, I'm not saying Congress is bad or anything, but the change in the center has led to a number of convictions in every single area around Gujarat.
Look, there was no scene of crime investigation. You know, the bodies were found by the Foreign Office, by our own family members. Without a scene of crime investigation, it's very difficult to get conviction. The people who were actually testifying, they've been scared off. So that even though people that were going to testify, they've gone hostile. So even waiting for a verdict is very unlikely. We've known from the beginning, the criminally, those convictions is very hard because they're never really investigated effectively. So that's why we did the civil case. So on the criminal side, we're waiting for a verdict, but I can, cut that through quite quickly. No justice there. As far as the riot issue, when the point came up, in my view, look, it's now 10 years this event has occurred. Wasn't it 2002, I think, 2002, more than 10 years, right? The Supreme Court of India has investigated and tried to implicate him or at least pass judgment. They have not found any evidence against him. If 10, 11 years have gone by from an event that everybody considers to be very serious and really bad, and everybody's thinking that Narendra Modi was the only one who was responsible for it, then by now they would have come out with all the best evidence and tried him and tested him and found him guilty.
I know it's been 13 years, 14 years, 15 years, and we shouldn't give up hope that there will be justice in India, not because it will deliver to us, but if we give up hope, we have no strategy. And I don't know Sakil and Syed, I don't know your parents or Mohammed Aswad. I didn't know Stephen Lawrence before he died, I only met them afterwards. That's a tragedy of working in these cases. But they deserve much better than what they've got in India. The claim we've made against Narendra Modi, it's as watertight as any case, in fact more watertight than cases being tried in international criminal courts against criminal thugs or political leaders in places like Rwanda. I've been to International Criminal Court in Tanzania, witnessed that and provided evidence on a number of cases. the Modi case is much stronger than the cases that exist against individuals in Rwanda. I'm talking about the command structure, I'm not talking about the brutality of the violence.
No, because there's been no case. The Special Investigation Tribunal. There've been many. But so far, the Special Investigation Tribunal said that there was no evidence whatsoever to implicate.
Barry Gardner's links are very strong with RSS, HSS, etc. And the largest two areas with the HSS, RSS strong are Leicester and Brent. He has, for the last 15 years, established serious organic links with RSS supporters in Brent North. His two assistants are Porter brothers. We've exposed them, and they are hardened Shaka supporters. If you know Gujarat, you know what Shakas are, right?
So I don't know what Shakas are.
Shakas are RSS schools for young people, like madrasas, but more militaristic.
Right, okay.
On how Hindu nation has to be built and how Hindus have to be protected. And the indoctrination that goes back from the time that the RSS, Rashtriya Seva Sangh, was set up.
These are the foot soldiers.
They're foot soldiers. They're the brown shirts, if you want. But they're educated from very young, from 3-year-old, etc. And there are shakas all over the place.
दो तीन ओम मित्राय नमः
ओम मित्राय नमः
ओम रविये नमः
ओम रविये नमः
ओम सूर्याय नमः
ओम सूर्याय नमः.
I see myself first and foremost as a British Hindu. I'm not one for segregation. Yes, I do speak Gujarati. Yes, my family is Gujarati. But I'll be quick to mention that I don't look to kind of compartmentalize myself and say, right, okay, I'm a Gujarati, or I believe specifically in the caste system. I was brought along to HSS from the age of about 6-7 years old, where I was taught different leadership skills, even from a very young age, how to develop myself as an individual, both mentally, physically, how to really have that disciplinarian aspect to my mentality.
A lot of RSS and Bajrangi Dal leaders, for example, have been convicted of violence during riots, for example, the Gujarat riots. So what do you think about that?
Well, I would take the flip side of the coin and look at the real deal, which is exactly how much the RSS and Hindu Sangh have helped when there have been national causes which have needed aid. If you take the recent disaster in Uttarakhand, where there was mass flooding, people were made homeless, so many thousands of people killed there, the people of RSS were actually there first.
I was wondering also what your thoughts were on the Ayodhya temple as well, because I guess the HSS, RSS has been very pivotal in this.
I'm not going to diverge too much into that, if that's okay. I know about it, but I don't want to go along that route because that's a bit of a sensitive issue.
So do you have any views on Narendra Modi being Prime Ministerial candidate?
I'm potentially happy about the fact that he seems to be a bit more staunch in his beliefs. He strikes me as someone who can potentially be good for the country. I underline potentially, simply because of the fact that he seems quite nationalistic. He wants to, make the country more united and to generate that sense of identity within all the Indians within India.
And why is the sense of nationalism important to you? Why?
Because again, like I mentioned, I think it's important to have a sense of identity. If you're raised in this country, you owe a lot to this country. But again, you need to know about the ideals of your ancestors. You need to know about your motherland.
The Semitic faiths all at their core tend to be exclusivist. I have the patent and I have the way. I am the way and I am the gate, Christianity says. And thou shalt not have any other gods before me. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. There is no God but God. And Muhammad is his prophet. These are all exclusivist ways. Hinduism denies all of this and says, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is one, but sages call it by many names. It's a classic quote from the Rig Veda. And in that sense, while I espouse the rights of all religions to practice whatever they feel is correct for them, I am also unutterably opposed to the ethos of Christianity and in particular militant Islam and in particular militant Islam today, that everybody must hew to their ways. In such case, what has to be done is they have to be resisted, and they have to be resisted bluntly with full force, because sometimes that is the only language they understand. Gandhi's pacifism doesn't work there.
What do you mean by full force?
In other words, since they believe an eye for an eye and a nail for a nail, you will treat them the same way. In other words, if you want to live peaceably, we will live peaceably next to you. But if you come there and you say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, there is no God, but Muhammad is prophet, I will say no. Muhammad may be his prophet, but so is Krishna. And if you try to force me to listen to Muhammad, then I will resist you with deadly force.
He is just telling the history. In the beginning, there was a very small section of Sufis who were not as aggressive.
They were not Sufi, they were Hindu people.
Sufis were learned differently.
मेरा दोस्त जो है यासीन बहुत अच्छा मुसलमान है, लेकिन वो तो अच्छा बहुत अच्छा है. कौन बोलता है खराब है? दो चार मुसलमान खराब है. ये वही बदमाश.
No, that is not what we are saying.
Major, he is accusing them of their faults majorly, but this will not really make any difference.
The point is, unless you accept that there are different shades of grey, it is not black and white, we have lost the battle. And Hindus also are like that. We also are fanatics among Hindus too.
हिंदू में भी फैनेटिक हैं. इसको आप exclusively don't ever mention that Hindus are also fanatic, because you have to complete the picture. No matter how fanatic a Hindu is, Hindu will never go out internationally and try to convert the whole world to Islam.
That is true.
Okay, so don't say that exclusively, because that gives a wrong impression. Being analytical, being factual, historian is great, excellent for an academic purpose. But don't ever lose the overall picture, what you are trying to convey. So don't let those things diffuse your prime goal.
नहीं भाई वो तो बना देखिए वो तो पहली वाली नहीं है. She is from Cambridge. She is from School of African Orient Studies. She is not Tangawala on the street. At the time of partition, if you think about it, Surovardi, who was from East Bengal, 10,000 people a day were being slaughtered on the streets of Calcutta and in Noakhali and places like that. When Gandhi said, oh, you should be peaceful and let them do whatever they want. We are not advocating genocide. We are not advocating what I would call restrained violence. What we are saying is we should now stand up for our rights as Hindus. And that means if anybody meddles with you, Make sure if they start something, you will finish it. At the same time, never go out and be irredentist. That is, if your temple basically was built in Mathura and Aurangzeb, the most fanatic and bigoted of Muslim emperors came and broke the temple in Mathura and all that, and there is a huge mosque standing there. We are not saying destroy the mosque today. But what we are saying is, if there is a temple which has to be built in Ayodhya and all that, build the temple. What has happened is Indians or Hindus lived by those rules, but at the same time they had become excessively pacifist. And that is why Hinduism almost vanished. It is with the rise of the Vijayanagar Empire in the south, with the rise of the great Maratha Hindu Empire in Pune, and finally with the rise of the great Sikh Empire under Maharana Ranjit Singh, that Hinduism is still alive today. Otherwise it would have all gone in one massive genocide.
And that's the reason I was saying that we need a Hindu Rashtra. If the world had to live in peace, only Hindus can lead them, I think. And I think what is happening in India nowadays, I think people are awakening, and this Vivekananda Centennial, I think, will bring some new thought process in the young people, and young people are also liking the way Modi is telling India first. I think that message is very, very strong. Everybody should believe that if he's a part of India, India should come first. Like I live in America, America comes first for me. This is the feeling every human being should have for his own nation. Not for its destruction, but to see it progresses.
If there is even a small chance of him becoming the Prime Minister, because if he does, it's not just shocking for and horrendous for Muslim community. In my view, it's a disaster for the whole country. And we just cannot allow that. And we will be less powerful if he becomes a Prime Minister than we are now. And we are not very powerful now.
Are you prepared to consider disinviting Narendra Modi? Then I will come and see you. We will come and see you. Are you prepared to consider that possibility?
Can I just say to you, I've issued the invitation. The invitation has been declined. Okay? So he's not coming.
Are you prepared to take back that invitation? Then we can talk. Otherwise, what's the point?
That's why I issued it in the first place.
You invited him.
That's why I issued it in the first place. Because I have respect for the Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court of India investigated and said that there was no case to answer.
Are you prepared? Answer my question, sir.
I didn't say they cleared him. What I said is that they said there was no case to answer. Right? They said
ongoing.
No.
So
what's the difference? They have not cleared him. The difference, madam, is this.
exonerated him.
This claim that Modi is not responsible because he's not been indicted by the SIT. Let's look at the SIT. Okay, let's really look at it because we have here 4 different people in the SIT have stated that a meeting took place on February 27th in Modi's residence where Modi told law enforcement personnel that police cannot take balanced actions against Hindus and Muslims, that Hindus will be allowed to vent their anger for 3 days.
In fact, every politician in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, in Delhi knew what was going on in Wilbur Society from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Until they burned the house, they pulled my dad out when he could no longer call. Everyone knew he was asking for help, and he was telling them, there are children in this house, there are women in this house, there are pregnant ladies in this house, there are old ladies in this house. Please come and help us. Please come and help us. I mean, he had a book of names and telephone numbers. He called everyone, and he called Modi too. He called Sonia Gandhi, he called Modi,
What did they say?
Sonia Gandhi went to because at the time the in command was BJP, and she went up there to ask for help. And Modi, it seems, told my dad, Jaffrey, you are on your own. Save yourself if you can. And that's a fact because my cousins were with my dad. There were some neighbors who were there standing right next to my dad, and they said, Uncle, kya bola Modi ne? Hamare liye koi help aayegi? Because they're young kids, 19 years old, 20 years old. They were all surrounded, They were so helpless. My dad said, ab kuch nahi hoga. Go run upstairs, save yourself. Try and find some place to hide.
I know that people will always refute what happened at secret meetings, etc., and one person's word against another. But Mr. Modi's never been able to address those accusations fairly and equally, and he's never been cross-examined rigorously in a court. And I think you can make statements politically and say all sorts of things, and you're never going to be held to account. But if he's brought to court to answer that, I think his defense will fail and collapse, because there is not just circumstantial but concrete evidence of the command structure linking Mr. Modi to acts of barbarity and violence in Gujarat.
So why isn't he being brought to court?
Because the legal process in India is that you take an action against the claimant, the claimant files for further particulars of claim, you give further particulars of claim, and he keeps asking for more, he keeps denying his role. And you can go to the Supreme Court to say, perhaps because the judiciary is biased in Gujarat, we should take it outside another area. That's contested. It takes another 2 years. The backlog in India is so huge, and I'm not here criticizing Indian courts, I'm just saying the process is so slow that people can abuse it even further, and that's what Mr. Modi has done.
Yesterday, the SIT turned over 7,000 messages from police all over the city of Ahmedabad during the riots that were being relayed to the Central Police Control, where the head of police officials and state officials were present. Let me read out some of these. Mob has attacked the society from all sides. Ehsan Jaffrey and women and children are being burnt alive in front of us. Houses are ablaze. Mob is looting homes. Please send reinforcements. This is 2 kilometers from the central control room. Response, nothing. Yet, and this is the most amazing thing, ladies and gentlemen, the SIT did not use any of these 7,000 messages to impeach the testimony of these senior police officials, the state apparatus, that their testimony being they did not know that this was happening. They were taken by surprise, so they waited not a few hours, not a day, not 2 days, 3 days to mobilize. 3 days where our conscience as a nation was absolutely stabbed in the back.
That's when they say that this was around 2 o'clock or some of that time, during that time, that he took some of my mom's jewelry that was in the lock. We had a small cupboard in his bedroom, which is in the first floor. He took some of the cash that we had there and some jewelry, and he thought maybe he went outside and he was trying to negotiate with the mob, saying, this is all I have, why don't you take this? And that's when they just took him. Because I think that time he had lost all hope. He knew nothing was going to happen. And I think everybody tells me that he thought in his heart that if they had come for him because they were calling his name, they were chanting his name outside, Jaffrey, Jaffrey. And he thought that if he went outside and if they killed him, then hopefully they will just take the money which is lying around and they will go. And the rest of the people in the house probably can save themselves. They tortured him for 45 minutes. Then they cut his head and put it on a trishul. And they went outside to show people what they've done.
I didn't, I still, for a couple of years, until 2007, I kept thinking that he died in the fire. I wanted to console myself by believing that. Then in 2007, the Tehelka sting operation, that that clarified, these people, they came themselves and they said what they did and how they were told that whatever they do, Modi will protect them. And they are loose. They are loose.
मानते नहीं है फर्क हिंदू मुसलमान का, जानते हैं रिश्ता इंसान से इंसान का, रुके न जो झुके न जो दबे न जो मिटे न जो, हम वो इंकलाब है जुल्म का जवाब है, हर शहीद हर गरीब का यही तो ख्वाब है, का यही तो ख्वाब है, रुके न जो.
One beautiful thing about India is it's such a resilient country, and you have any event. We had the floods in Mumbai, we had the terrorist attacks in Mumbai, we had earthquake in Gujarat, if you remember, major earthquake, and it was far more worse than the riots that took place in Gujarat. People within a matter of days get over them. Today if you go to Gujarat, there's no feeling of riots. It's only the political and some media areas that are picking up on this. But otherwise, the day-to-day life, when you meet people, the last thing that comes in their mind is what happened in the riots, or whatever even happened at the earthquake, or whatever the terrorists did. None of that. Indians are very resilient that way. I really admire that community for that reason.
ગુસ્સો તો બહુ જ આવે છે. હવે અત્યારે તમે એમ કહો ને કે મોદીની સામે તમે કહો તો આ વાત હું મોદીની સામે કહેવા તૈયાર છું. એટલો ગુસ્સો આવે છે. કારણ કે અમે 2002 પછી બહુ બધું ગુમાવ્યું છે. માલ તો ગુમાવ્યો છે તો માલનો તો કંઈ વાંધો નથી, પણ જાન જે ગુમાવી છે અમે એ તો અમારું મન જાણે છે. નાના છોકરાઓ, ભાઈઓ, બહેનો, તમારી જેવી છોકરીઓ, એ લોકોએ શું બગાડ્યું હતું એનું? તો એ છોકરીઓને, નાના છોકરાઓના ભૂલકાઓને, પેટમાં 7 માસનું બાળક હતું, એને શું બગાડ્યું હતું? એણે જે કર્યું છે એ તો અમે કદીક નહીં ભૂલે. ગુસ્સો તો અમારો ઠેઠ સુધી ઠંડો નહીં થવાનો.
When I spent 10 years here, then I did my MBA in finance. And now I'm planning, when I move to India, I'm going to take my accounting department to India. I always tell my boss. And he says, oh, you're not allowed to go, I'm like, well, don't worry. If I go, I take the department with me.
We have been trying to buy a plot to build our own house because someday we want to return and we want to live there. And couple of them, I will not say all of them, we have not been able to buy a plot. Some excuse or the other, oh, that plot is not open and we are not. The moment they come to know your name, the offer gets withdrawn. Finally, we had to buy only in Johapura because that's the ghetto where most of the Muslims are living now.
And so you want to live in Gujarat someday?
Yes. I mean, whether I want to live or not, my family, my wife wants to live. And I think what's dear to her must be dear to me. And it is, actually. I would live in Gujarat. And Gujarat is a place which, barring this, As I said, my first love, really. And so I would like to go there and do something constructive for the people and for the communities.
When I think about what happened to the family in England who are visiting Gujarat and they were butchered there, I feel like when my kids are going to visit me, my grandchildren are going to come, and I'll be in a place which is not going to be safe for them. But there is nothing that can deter me from moving back to Gujarat. I mean, if I have to move back, it has to be Ahmedabad. My dad's ashes are there.
મારા શહેરના 3 યુવાનો પ્રેમવશ લાગણીવશ પૂર્વજોના વતન રૂગણાગ્રવશ પધાર્યા ત્યાં તેઓ પર્યટકો મુસાફરો રાહગીરો હતા માત્ર છતાં તેમને જીવતા સળગાવ્યા આ હિંસા ક્યાંથી આવી આ નફરત કોણે વાવી મૃતકોના કુટુંબીજનો દિલાસાના 2 શબ્દોની રાહ જોતા હજી બેઠા.
This was a very joyous day. When we won the League Cup, it was myself, the Said, Sakil, Muhammad.
Do you think you would go back?
I would like to go back. I would like to go back and hopefully make a change. Hopefully make a change and try to help people in bettering their lives, giving them opportunities that they haven't had. Maybe by doing this it'll help me. It'll help my family.
The first time I went to Ahmedabad in 2002 and they took us in a van to the complex, I had never felt my blood was racing, The nearer the home came, I had this rush in my blood, and I'm telling you, I had never had that. I couldn't get out of the van because I'm looking at my house, that used to be like green and, I used to decorate it myself. And I couldn't so I took my shoes out and then I put my feet because, I felt like where would be his ashes? This is not the kind of faith you want people to have. Nobody has, I don't even want that penalty for Modi. I don't even want death penalty for all these criminals. Nothing bad should happen. We should be given justice. But these kind of killings, nobody has done sins that they should pay for this.
So, what is for you? What would justice be?
Justice would be that he should be ripped off of all his powers. He doesn't deserve this power. Nobody. Every single person that day was in power in government should be stripped. Because they didn't know how to use their power. They misused it. When people were asking for help, they ordered not to save them. What kind of a country can they run? They don't have a conscience. They don't understand the pain of people. The same people whom they have been given the power to save, to support, to work for. They just completely went against that. Politics is bad. This is not right. We are living in a democracy.
दिल की खलिश ना तमाम देखिए कब तक रहे, बेअसर राहे अवाम देखिए कब तक रहे। ज़हने रसा ने नया चांद उड़ाया तो है, तीर किए सुबह शाम देखिए कब तक रहे। तिश्नगी बढ़ के बनी ज़ौक़े अमल रंगो नूर, गैर के हाथों में जाम देखिए कब तक रहे। इश्क़ हयात इश्क़ कमाले हयात, फिर भी ये हम पे हराम देखिए कब तक रहे। गिर ही पड़ा आखिरश ताजे सरे खुसरवी, जुल्म का ऊंचा मकाम देखिए कब तक रहे। दिल की खलिश ना तमाम देखिए कब तक रहे। बेअसर राहे अवाम देखिए कब तक रहे।